So the typical answer that people generally give in the space of self-help in psychology, if you do a Google search, it's usually along the lines of, he's a dirty dog, he's just a dog, and he's selfish, and you deserve better, and you can just leave him. And for the sake of this video, I think that's total nonsense. And there's no reason at all that if somebody is really struggling with something, and especially if a porn addiction habit has come up recently, or maybe you found out about it, or he confided in you, it's not an appropriate response to just say, oh, he's selfish, he's the worst, and find someone else, for a number of reasons. Number one is that I am of the belief that marriage is a process of growth for all individuals involved. As long as both individuals, you and your spouse, are committed to growing through this experience, then it is not appropriate response as soon as someone makes a mistake or acts up or slips up to just say, it's over, you're the worst, I'm done, I'm through. And another reason is that pornography is very prevalent, and this is not a justification, but it's a fact, and it's important to know, is that studies, up to 98% of men have viewed pornography at some point. And a vast majority of men view porn, and women, by the way, view pornography on a regular basis. So it's a bit unfair and actually unrealistic to say, I didn't know about the porn habit, and I've been kind of cornered into this situation, or boxed into this situation, and I'm going to divorce this man or leave this situation and go find another person that doesn't have a porn habit. That's, honestly, it's a bit unrealistic. And I've had worked with people that of that mindset, but hear me out. And there are ways to get through this, as I have in my own situation, and so many couples have done as well. So I'm going to be talking, and by the way, this is not a justification for a man's action. It's not a justification. It's a fact, and it's an important piece of information to know in order to be educated as the spouse, in order to also have some level of understanding and compassion for for your spouse and for the situation, right? So that brings us to the first thing that's very helpful for you to do as a spouse, is having the right mindset going into this. And I know this is, pretty esoteric to say, but the mindset that you have, an approach to this, should be of one that your partner's relationship with porn and overcoming it is a marathon and it's not a sprint. Meaning that their habit probably developed over many, many years, and sometimes even decades, of constant overstimulation and overexposure to pornographic content. It's not something that you can just turn off overnight and decide that, all right, porn is affecting my life, it's affecting my relationship, I'm done, I'm through. It's not, and I promise and I guarantee you that that's something that they have most likely tried to quit before because it was affecting their relationship or their life in some way, but they've been unable to. And this is a very, very common thing for men especially. So to view this situation in your relationship, in your marriage, and your spouse's, your partner's relationship with pornography as a marathon and not a sprint and an overnight fix of any kind. And also maybe having the mindset that this is a very, very common situation that almost every couple goes through. Almost every couple that I've worked with over the last decade that I help go through, prepare for marriage and have a thriving marriage and even get them out of dire situations and into a place of thrive. All of those couples go through this exact situation. So it might be helpful to have that in the back of your mind, that this is a very common situation that everyone is dealing with. It's just that people don't talk about it. People are not talking about it, which is why I'm making this video and I'm making this YouTube channel, because people are struggling in silence in the dark. But the reality is that you don't have to. There is support, there is education, there is guidance out there that is available right in front of you through the internet. So the second very important thing that you really should do to help support your partner is get educated. This is critical. Why? Because as a spouse, there's generally two ways that you react to a partner's porn habit. Number one, if we were to look at this as a spectrum of extremes, right? On one extreme of the spectrum, a typical response and understandable response from many people is to respond with outrage. I can't believe that you've done this to me. I cannot believe, I want a divorce immediately. This is disgusting. This is terrifying. And you have just destroyed our relationship, right? That's kind of a more extreme approach to the relationship, which is not very healthy. It's not very helpful because the person is struggling with a literal porn addiction. It's not a decision that they've intentionally made to hurt you or anybody. It's an addiction. It's something that they've been grappling with and don't know how to resolve. So that's one extreme, is just absolute disgust, outrage, and I want to file for divorce immediately, right? Not the most helpful approach. On the other extreme of the spectrum is, okay, sure, fine, why not? Sounds good. Don't do that again, which is also very common, to be frank. Spouses just respond with a carefree attitude and it's like, it's fine, it's not the worst thing in the world. Both of these extremes are forms of ignorance, forms of, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how this is affecting us. I don't know if it's good or bad. This is just the situation, right? There is always a healthy third option. There is always a healthy medium, which is education. The more you get educated about the nature of pornography, the nature of addiction, the nature of sexual addiction, the nature of your spouse, your partner's habit in particular, the more you will be able to approach this from an educated and informed, most importantly, an informed perspective, rather than just reacting to either extremes. So the question is, how do you get educated? Well, there's a lot of resources online, of course. You should definitely check out the other videos on this channel to help get into the mind of somebody who is really struggling with this habit. And also, very important, this is number 3, important thing that you can do is communication. It's vital that you communicate, even if you are scared to communicate, even if you don't know how to communicate about this. If you're getting educated, if you have the right mindset going into a mindset of growth rather than reaction, and rather than a mindset of running away or escaping the situation, if you have those two things covered, then communicating about this becomes infinitely more easy, and you can just have give and take with your partner about their habit, about what you've learned. If you're watching this video or other videos, you can learn about what you learned through the process of your education experience, and through having those conversations, your partner, he will be able to more readily share with you what's really difficult, specific to his situation, and why he is acting out in this way. So the goal of this communication, the goal of this conversation, of this give and take, is to understand your partner's addiction, to understand your partner's habit, and to eventually have a certain level of empathy and compassion. Now, hold on. I don't mean it's an excusable habit. I don't mean that you should just say like, oh yeah, I understand, it's something that all guys. I don't mean that. It is very important to know that his relationship with porn, his addiction to porn, is self-centered. It is selfish. It is, because if you are in a committed relationship with another human being and you're deciding on your own will to satisfy and to pleasure yourself sexually before the needs of your partner, that is by definition self-centered. To sexually satisfy yourself and your own desires and needs before the needs and desires of somebody else, that is self-centered, and that is gotta stop, and that is not okay. So you should not stand for this relationship with porn. You should not stand to be in a pornified relationship, in a relationship that is self-centered and focused on the self. So that's enough talk about you and what you can do. I want to talk about what your partner needs to do. All right, I'm a guy. I've been there. I understand this very well. Your spouse, your husband, your man needs to get help. He needs to seek help, and he needs to be serious about seeking help. You can send him the videos on this channel. You can talk to him. You can do the education with him. He needs to be in a place where he's serious about getting help. Every man is different in terms of their level of seriousness because of the nature of addiction. It's not, like I said, it's not something that you can just decide overnight. I promise you, it's not a malicious attack against you. I promise you, it's not your fault. I promise you that his relationship with porn is a series of many events from childhood, maybe childhood wounds, sexual experiences, might be from a variety of things that affected him throughout his life, and the reality that pornography itself is highly addictive and designed to satisfy people's sexual desires and needs in a way that is extremely temporary and extremely false. So how can he get help? Well, I would encourage him to check out the videos here. I would also very, very much encourage him to join a group, a live support group that meets every week. And it's extremely transformative for people's experience and having them gain sexual integrity and get to it from a place of, just goofing around and dabbling and overcoming, to actually getting serious about it and recognizing the impact that their actions are having on their lives and their relationships every aspect of the life and actually getting real long-lasting help. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my situation. I was addicted to porn for many years, as many men are. I brought it into my marriage. We've been married for 10 years now, and there was a few year period in the beginning of our marriage where I really was hit. I went into the marriage completely clean, completely, my relationship with porn was totally, non-existent, I thought. And then a few years into our marriage, it really hit back very strongly through a series of stressful events and work and all kinds of difficult situations happening. And I went to porn as an emotional crutch, as something to lean on when I was feeling these difficult emotional challenges. And I realized that was really the turning point, is that I realized that I was using pornography as a crutch, an emotional support system to go to when I didn't want to deal with my emotions, when I didn't want to deal with situations anymore, and I would want to escape life and especially my stressful relationship with my wife at the time. So I eventually told her that it was an ongoing battle that I was having with porn, and my wife reacted in the more extreme of she didn't understand what porn habit was. She didn't really have any exposure to porn at all. And she just was like, okay, I don't really understand. Don't do that again. That kind of category, which is kind of born in a lot of ignorance and maybe miseducation about sexuality. And, and so what we did was just try to be educated and learn about the habit as a couple, and eventually came to a place where she just, I can't tell you how powerful a wife's love, to be really cheesy here, the power of a wife's love. And this is not to say that it's, the pressure or the responsibility on the wife to help a man out of a porn habit, but it can be very, very helpful to have a wife who is really just understanding, supportive, and stands her ground. Honestly, like during that whole time where I was really battling the porn habit, she really stood her ground sexually. This is something a lot of women wonder, is like, how sexually active should we be during this time? And she was really clear to me, like, if she feels like I'm being selfish and self-centered, throughout the day, and I'm just not thinking about her and not thinking about others, I'm just thinking about my own sexual needs, she was like, no, I'm not having it, and God bless her. That is what I needed. That is what I needed, is when she, previously or other times in our marriage, whenever I was feeling, wanting to be sexual and intimate with her, she was just like, okay, just to kind of satisfy me. But she stood her ground for so long in our relationship. And she said, I will do it when I'm feeling, she said, we'll do it when she's feeling ready, when she's feeling intimately close, emotionally close to me, internally speaking. And then based on that foundation of internal intimacy, she was willing to be externally intimate with me as well. And of course, sometimes it was challenging because I was dealing with a porn habit, and sometimes I wanted to kind of retreat and run back to that when I was feeling rejected by her. But in the end, she stood her ground in a loving way and said, you're being selfish, and I don't think it's good for you, and I think we should really hold off. And I can tell you, I guarantee you now, our relationship is 100-fold more just beautiful and intimate. I'm very happy in our sexual relationship. Like I talk about frequently on this channel, is we went a few years even without being sexually intimate at all, which is extremely challenging for me. But God bless her, I'm so grateful that we stuck through it, because we both had the commitment that marriage, the purpose of marriage, is growth. The purpose of marriage is growth, and it's not happiness for the sake of happiness. It's through growth and it's through progress that we experience happiness, that we experience trust, and we rebuild trust in a relationship from the ground up. And right now, 10, 11 years later, 2 years later, we have a smashing marriage that I'm very, very, very proud of and happy to share with all of you here. So if this video has been valuable for you at all, I would really appreciate a smash for the like button. Hit the like button because it does help the video share with more people so that other people just like you can find it. And feel free to check out videos around here as well. Thanks for watching. Take care.